Well, now we come to the part where we talk about the main usage of After Effects, about keyframes. Until now, we were getting familiar with the program environment. Keyframes are one of the main reasons that a motion is created. I entered this logo here. You learned about transform options last session. Not only the shape layers, but each layer has this option, except for the sound. Other layers have these transform options too. Those that have a stopwatch next to them can create keyframes. I draw a rectangle here. These parts, such as size, position, roundness, or stroke, with this stopwatch, they are all can make a keyframe for you, and we can animate with these keyframes. I delete the shape part and explain on the logo what a keyframe is and how it is made. To create a keyframe, just click on the stopwatch option. A few things happen when we click. This stop sign becomes blue. Here, a blue option also appears. This diamond shape in timeline is the keyframe we were looking for. The keyframe is created in the timeline. But what is it exactly? Consider a package containing information. Information on the things used here. For example, this is where the logo is located. There are a few ways. Either you can move it manually or you can use these options. I leave it here. As you see, its data on the x-axis is about 320 and on the y-axis is 569.5. Keyframes stores the information of these two values. Now I'll go on the first second, 1 second and 22 frames. I move the shape and put it there. Look, when the stopwatch is active and I move the object, it automatically creates a new keyframe. The middle frames are automatically detected by After Effects. The first frame was at 320, 569. The frame here is at 1665, 582. You can see that the numbers change little by little to reach this frame. So keyframes stores the main information inside themselves, and they fill in the rest with that information. Now I want it back to its original place. What should I do? I enter the information of the first frame. I'll copy it from the first frame. When I say keyframe, I mean all the information in the scene, like position, scale, rotation, and everything else. In the third second, I want it back to its original place. I put the CTI on the frame I want. I select the first keyframe with the mouse. It turns blue when selected. Ctrl C. To paste the keyframe, use Ctrl V. The first frame information is repeated right here, with the same position. So our logo comes here, then it goes back to the first place. This way we can do a keyframe and make whatever changes we like. This was the position option. If I want to make it a little bigger when it goes forward, I use the scale option. For this, we need separate keyframes. Each of these layers has its keyframes. For example, I want this shape to be small in the first keyframe. Hold down the Shift key to attach the CTI to this keyframe. You are already familiar with these items in the layer section. Without Shift, you can't exactly put it on the keyframe. When the CTI is placed, this diamond next to the layer turns blue. If it's not on the keyframe, the diamond will be empty. In this way, use the Shift and select your keyframes. Now I want to enlarge the shape here. There are two ways. Either you can click on the Add or Remove Keyframes option. Click on the Add or Remove Keyframes option to add a new keyframes where your CTI is now located. A keyframe is created. Now you can do your changes you want to this frame. For example, I make this logo a little bigger here. You see, as it moves forward, it grows from small to large. So there are two ways to create a keyframe, but I don't like this one. This is useful for when you want to position to be fixed. Suppose you are on the 3rd second and you want to go to the 5th second. While it is in the place, we create a keyframe on this location. Then we go to the 7th second frame and move this up. It is mostly used for you to create a fixed keyframe. For example, the information of these two keys is the same. Or copy paste the frame you want. I prefer this way. Suppose here we don't have any keyframe. I'll go there and paste the keyframe. When you paste it, it will stick to the layer related to itself. That is, if we also have 10 layers here like scale, rotation and so on, when I copy paste from the position layer, the After Effects pastes the keyframe into this layer. So don't worry that the layer must be selected. You don't have to do this. Now I select opacity. But when I paste this frame here, it doesn't look it in the opacity layer. It is pasted in the same position layer. So in this way, create a keyframe and apply any changes you like. You can also specify the distance of the keyframe. Let me delete this. Another small point I forgot to mention is that if this stopwatch is not active, its keyframe will be completely deleted. Make sure the stopwatch is activated when you create a keyframe. And if you want to delete its keyframe completely, disable the stopwatch. Like this. When I remove the keyframes, it no longer has any animation and will remain fixed. Well, this is our logo. I want it to go forward first. What should I do? In the first step, I select the layer itself. I want it to take it forward. I use the shortcuts and hit the keyboard's P button. I make a keyframe for this position. For its second place, I'll go on the 1st second. Then I drag the logo to its new location. We don't need to click on this keyframe anymore. It automatically creates a keyframe. Also, I want the shape to spin around at the same time as it moves forward. So I hold Shift and hit R, the rotation. And we come to the 1st frame. Note that wherever your CTI is, a keyframe is created. If you don't want to create a keyframe randomly, be sure to come to the 1st place, then click on the stopwatch to create a keyframe. Hold Shift, go on to the 1st second to add a new keyframe. I want the logo to spin around in its distance. I'll enter one here, then I hit enter. You can see that it's spinning around now. For example, in the end, I want it to have a 90-degree angle. I place the CTI with Shift on this frame again. And I will enter a 90 here. Look, it rotates one turn and 90 degrees. Like this. Plus, I want the shape to be small at first and big at the end. I hold Shift and hit S. I click on the stopwatch and a keyframe is created. I make it small. Now I enlarge it on the second one. With the opacity, I reduce the transparency at first to gradually increase it. Press Shift and T till opacity show up and add its keyframe. I put the first one at 0%. I'll go on the second keyframe and put on the 100. So we can do several animations on one part at the same time, changing both the position and the scale. And we can even increase or decrease the distance between keyframes. For example, if you see it's happening too late or too fast, you can adjust the distance. Like the layers be moved, we can also move the distance between the keyframes. For example, I want the position to enter the scene first, then enlarge, then rotate. We can move these. I hold Shift and put it here. After this, I hold the Shift and set the rotation. The same goes for opacity. Because opacity is not specified here, we can set the opacity first. Next, position, then rotation. And finally, let's leave the scale. You can apply any changes you like. Look, it appears first. Right now it is small, it comes here and enlarges. Then it spins around. So we can easily play with these options and adjust the distance of keyframes. If you think it's fast, pull these keyframes further forward. Now if I hit space, we will see how long this operation takes. When I bring it very close, you can see how much is affected its speed. In the same way, we can move keyframes. I remove the stopwatch of these layers to remove their keyframes. I only have the keyframes of position now. Wherever there is no keyframe, there is no animation and the logo is fixed. It starts moving here and then stays in its place. I want it to come here, stand for a few seconds, and then go back to its place. From this keyframe, we take Ctrl C, then Ctrl V. The shape is fixed till here. Now I want it to go back to its place. I'm coming in the 6th second. Ctrl C and Ctrl V from this frame again. When I hit the space, it comes here, stays fixed, and returns to its place. With this right and left arrow option, you can switch between keyframes, like this. Of course, it also has a shortcut, K and J keys on the keyboard. When I hit K, it goes forward and shows the front keyframes. There is no keyframes after this, so this option turns off. Now if I hit J, it goes to the previous keyframes. And this is the first keyframe. So switch between keyframes and use the shortcuts to have more control over your animation. As for the distance, if you see it's happening very slowly, you can move the keyframes. You can also select several keyframes together. Now I hit the space and you see that it moves very fast. So you can adjust the distance between keyframes. Told you, I copied and pasted this keyframe. Or you can click on this instead, which copies and pastes the information of the previous keyframes. Also here, I take a copy of this and paste it. So there were two methods, either click on it to create a keyframe or take a copy from that. I prefer the copy paste method. For each of these layers that you didn't want, hit Shift and the first letter of its name. If I press the Shift S, the scale will be removed. Shift R, the rotation. And Shift T, the opacity. I'm working on the position here. When I press the Shift P2, the position layer will be removed. When you move the layer, it moves with its keyframes. Keyframes are the small member of a layer. I get a duplicate of this with Ctrl D. Let me teach you a shortcut here. Suppose we want to see this one's keyframe. When I hit the U button on the keyboard, the keyframes will appear. I hit the U again and it closes. When you are working on an animation that the number of layers is too large, if you want to work on these layers one by one, your work will be very difficult. You can, for example, select layer 4, hit U, display its keyframes and work on that layer. Or if the keyframes of this layer are open, look, it's very difficult to navigate and flip the layers up and down. Select them all, hit Ctrl A, hit U, and as you can see, their option will close. When you press F2, they will be deselected. Let me delete these layers. I put this layer here. Now this appears first, then the next logo. Every layer that moves, its keyframes move with it. When I hit the U button, you can see the difference in the location of the keyframes of these two layers. If you delete the entire layer, you will also delete its keyframes. So these are the stopwatch options for creating keyframes. Be aware that wherever your CTI is located, a keyframe will be created when you click on this item. And if you click on it again, the keyframes and the stopwatch will be removed altogether. With anything in After Effects that has a stopwatch option next to it, we can add keyframes and animate with them. In the next section, we will get familiar with more exercise for this section of keyframing, motion and animation. And we enter into more serious discussion. So stay tuned for the next videos.